Welcome back to the 56th online episode of Peacetime, hosted every Sunday morning by Peace Point with myself, Phra Nicholas Thanissaro, live streaming from our meditation center in London. Last time you saw me, we looked at blessing number 14, not leaving our work undone. With the Dhamma talk today, we will move on in our series on enlightened living to the first blessing in the Pillar of Society subsection, namely blessing number 15 on generosity. So today's session will run to about an hour and 10 minutes, starting with a 20-minute talk about the importance and stages of fruitful giving, then 30 minutes of meditation and 20 minutes to explain who and how much to give with their possible karmic outcomes. I should mention from the start that generosity is a subject I've already dealt with at length in some of my earlier lectures. Of course, I've already touched on generosity in the Buddhist Concept series B027 on doing good that does you good. I also talked about generosity as a way to overcome greed and stinginess in the mind in talk A027, in the talk entitled 7 Myths About Generosity. Some of the objections to generosity we already looked at in that talk included that the welfare state makes generosity unnecessary, that generosity is only for rich people, that your previous experience of generosity haven't made you any happier, that generosity should be secretive or random, that generous people shouldn't expect anything in return, that generosity only counts for the poor and needy, and that generosity encourages corruption, bribery, and holy rollers. If you still have these sorts of attitudes to generosity, then perhaps you need to go back and listen to some of the earlier lectures again. My hope is, though, that by this point in the progression of my lectures, you are slightly more sold on the importance of generosity, allowing me to spend more time looking at how to fine-tune our practice of generosity in order to lead to the very highest of blessings in life. Before coming to generosity, though, let us look at the new grouping in the blessings ushered in by the practice of generosity. The fifth grouping of the blessings of life, usually referred to as becoming a pillar of society, consists of 4 virtues, namely, starting with generosity, of course, but continuing with blessing 16 on practicing the Dharma, blessing 17 on looking after your extended family, and blessing 18 on ethical working practices. In the previous 4th grouping, we have hopefully already established harmony in the family life. That family harmony will act as a springboard to more challenging virtues involved in becoming a pillar of society. Unfortunately, even if we have fulfilled all the previous blessings from 1 through 14, we can still only consider ourselves to have broken even in our virtues. In other words, we have managed to steer clear of the minefields of everyday life that might otherwise cripple our future efforts to accumulate merit. This is why in this 5th grouping we start to explore the virtues where we truly give back something to society and the wider world around us. It will start to make us into the sort of person who society can trust and look up to, in other words, a pillar of society. The law of karma states that we shall reap what we sow. And if we provide for the happiness of others through our generosity, the karmic outcome will include us being provided for in our own happiness and convenience. Ironically, the Buddhist perspective on generosity is characterized less by material ways and gifts to benefit the recipient, but rather focus on the spiritual gifts brought to the giver. Buddhism places great importance on generosity because it is seen as the origin of abundance. There are some things that are universal truths that appear in the Buddhist scriptures and the Bible alike. One of these truths is that there are many reasons why it's better to give than to receive. Giving instead of receiving has many advantages. For example, it makes you happier, since it's been proven that twice as many people who donated blood were happy compared with those who didn't do so. Giving communicates something about our worldview because the opposite, hoarding, reflects the attitude that there's only a limited amount of wealth to go around, and if we don't get it, then someone else will. There is research to show that being a giving person helps us live longer. Giving increases our social connectedness, helping us perceive others more positively and charitably, while heightening a sense of real interdependence and cooperation in the social community. Giving is contagious, with many real-world examples of the idea of pay it forward, which have inspired others to show their generous side. Giving gives your life meaning, bridging the disconnect between who you think or say you are and who you actually are. Giving increases self-confidence and trust in those who receive our gifts, that they will do the right thing with what they've received. Giving allows you to listen to others differently and also to look at your own resources without attachment. Giving fosters contentment and promotes a universal good. Finally, giving helps to create lasting relationships such as marriages and, more generally, makes you a likable person. Generosity can therefore be considered an indispensable prerequisite for becoming a pillar of society. Within the context of Buddhism, the Pali word dana, used for generosity, means sacrificing your own possessions for the benefit of other people, wholeheartedly, with the intention to honor the virtue of that person, or to assist a person of similar social standing, or to help someone who is worse off than ourselves. If you are not wholehearted about giving, then it cannot really be considered to be dana. The Buddhist usage of the word generosity is therefore broader than the equivalent word charity in Christianity, which is usually restricted to giving to the poor and needy. In the spiritual sense, dana sometimes refers to our intention to give. Sometimes it refers to the thing we want to give. Sometimes it refers to the abstention from wrongdoing, such as forgiveness. In this particular blessing, we focus on the intention and the gift because we have already mentioned abstention from wrongdoing in Blessing 9 on self-discipline. The intention to practice generosity stems from the logic that giving something away brings us more happiness than keeping it, and points to the idea in Buddhism that there is a sort of happiness that can come from inside us, something referred to technically as niramisa sukha, which does not need material possessions to elicit it. It is a sort of happiness that can be attained by practice of virtues like generosity, keeping the precepts, and meditating. It is considered superior to happiness that depends on material possessions, otherwise referred to by the technical term samisa sukha. Where happiness from possessions may distract us from our suffering, the happiness originating from within can actually help us overcome our suffering. Materialism perpetuates the myth that the more you own, the happier you will be. However, happiness reliant on possessions is as impermanent and unreliable as the possessions themselves, and in the long term will only add to our suffering when we are inevitably separated from our prized trophies. Inner happiness, by contrast, is expansive, enduring, and transformative in nature. It's the sort of happiness that we would want to share with others and paves the way for our journey toward enlightenment. The cultivation of generosity effectively allows us to distinguish between happiness from the inside and happiness from the possessions. According to the Buddha's teaching in the first verses of the Dhammapada, our intentions are the important precursor of every outcome, good or bad, that may happen in our lives. Some reasons for giving are less noble than others. That is, the more noble the intention behind an act of generosity, the more merit will be generated by the gift. Therefore, to maximize the merit from giving, it's useful to be aware of the spectrum of intentions available, so that we can practice generosity for the best of reasons. According to the Buddha's teaching in the Pattamaddhana Sutta of the Anguttara Nikaya, some reasons for giving are self-centered, while others are more noble. As many as 4 self-centered reasons for generosity include giving because you want something in return, giving under duress, giving in order to pay back a debt, or giving to procure a future favor. These 4 reasons are no more than ways of keeping up good relationships with the people around us. There is no real merit in such giving any more than virtue signaling a politician who wants to win votes might do, or giving away free samples to boost store sales. Although there is nothing wrong with such giving, because they lack purity of intention, they will fail to generate very much merit in the mind, and thus hold little interest for us in the pursuit of Buddhist perfections. Instead of these, the Buddha advocated 6 nobler intentions for giving. He recommended giving for giving's sake, in other words, giving for the joy of it. Secondly, the Buddha recommended giving to keep up family tradition. Thirdly, he recommended giving out of sympathy for the monastic community to support the monks from whom we receive so much in the way of teachings. Fourthly, the Buddha recommended giving as a way to make yourself a more praiseworthy person. It's not that we are fishing for compliments, but because generosity generally is a behavior praised by the wise. Fifth, the Buddha recommended giving in order to improve the quality of the mind. Lastly, Buddha recommended giving to pave the way towards a heavenly destiny. All these 6 reasons for giving are sufficiently noble to accrue merit in the mind. So supposing you wanted to practice generosity in a way most likely to produce the biggest blessings in your life. You could plan for this by following a checklist with 5 items, namely making a positive intention or resolution, choosing an appropriate gift, making yourself pure as the giver, and afterwards harboring no regrets. The first stage of practicing generosity is to make a positive intention or resolution. As a Buddhist, you may purify your intention by recollecting the virtues of the Triple Gem and the power of generosity to uproot stinginess from the mind, sparking joy for the act of generosity you plan to do. Having made your intention, make sure you follow through because, according to the Anguttara Nikaya's Vānicca Sutta, if someone pledges to offer a certain gift but later fails to do so, in any future business transactions, they will have the karmic retribution of consistently losing money. One formal way of declaring an intention so that it can ensure long-lasting outcomes from the act of generosity is to make an overt act of resolve. Traditionally, Buddhists may do this by raising the gift intended for offering to their foreheads while making the wish. Making a wish or resolution is like manifesting one's destiny. However, we also need to be careful about what we wish for in order to avoid courting disaster by wishing that, for example, your enemies come to a sticky end. An example of a skillful intention made before offering alms might be, through the power of this good deed, from this day forth, may my mind never fall under the influence of greed or stinginess. May always be surrounded by those whose minds are free of the taint of stinginess. In studying the Dharma, may I always be blessed with teachers who are open-handed in their teachings. May I be well provided for, and may the power of this generous deed help me to enter upon nirvana without delay. Nibbana pacayo hotu. Or, more briefly, according to the traditional Pali, Suttinang Vatamedanang Asavakayavahang hotu, which means, may these alms that I have given on this day be for an end of all defilements. The second stage to effective generosity is to seek out or buy an appropriate and wholesome gift by your honest efforts. Some people expect to find joy in giving stolen goods, such as picking daffodils in a public park to offer on a Buddhist shrine. However, the Buddha taught that there is no joy to be had in the giving of gifts obtained in dishonest or even devious ways. In short, we need to give thought to both the quality and the nature of the gift. In terms of quality, generally, since we are practicing generosity to generate merit in the mind, rather than merely for utilitarian purposes, the idea would be to give gifts that are of a better quality than things we would use ourselves. If it comes to giving something like a bruised fruit or leftovers, or having a whip round for someone, although this might be a useful way to help someone who is poor or needy, it's not the sort of giving that maximizes merit in the mind of the giver. As for the nature of the gift to be given, I should start by reminding viewers that not all objects of generosity are physical gifts. Where the objects are material, they are described by the Pali word vatutthana. Objects of generosity that are not physical include the giving of vocational knowledge or vidyatthana, the giving of spiritual knowledge or dhammattana, letting go of our anger by forgiving a person or abhayadana, behaving in a humble way or apajayana, helping others out by volunteering or vayavacha, transferring merit to others or patithana, and rejoicing in the merit of others or pattanumodana. Where a gift is something material, generally things suitable for giving to the monastic community would include any of the 4 basic requisites: clothing, food, shelter, or medicine. And these 4 are sometimes subdivided further into 10 categories, which would include food but not aphrodisiacs, drinks but not alcohol, cloth or clothing but not immodest clothes, vehicles, shoes or fares for traveling, flowers, candles, incense, medical creams, bedclothes or beds, shelter, and finally fuel. Failing this, the gift could be of money with which any of these could be bought. At the same time, there are some objects which, when gifted to the monastic community, would not lead to the arising of merit. Gifts that you might need to think twice about making over to someone else might include the usual categories of vice and sleaze, but in a Buddhist context would include alcohol for anything other than cleaning or disinfectant, matchmaking services, cigarettes, weapons, musical instruments, poisons, or drugs. In conclusion, a gift that would lead to a fruitful practice of generosity would be clean, refined, and attractive to receive. At the time of giving, you should do your best to relinquish your attraction for the appearance, sound, smell, taste, texture, or mood of that object. For example, Thai people have the tradition of not sniffing the perfume of a flower before putting it on a shrine. Third stage of fruitful giving would be to purify yourself before giving the gift. This might refer to sparking joy in the mind or taking the 5 or 8 precepts to ensure that your own sense of integrity is as perfect as possible. In addition, the meditation master Luang Por Wat Pak Nam suggested to bring your mind to a standstill at the center of your body as a practical way of amplifying the merit arising from the giving. Furthermore, our main contemporary teacher in the Dhammakaya tradition in Thailand, the Venerable Dhammachayo, encouraged philanthropists to conjure joyous enthusiasm in their mind every time they do an act of generosity, because it will indelibly etch that positive emotion into their minds. Whenever there is the opportunity to give a gift, you should spark joy in the mind to inspire and motivate ever greater philanthropy in the future. The 4th and final item on our generosity checklist is afterwards to harbor no regret in the mind. Having offered the gift, make sure the gift is gone from your mind too, by thinking only of the joy of giving and not allowing any feeling of regret to enter your mind. One practical way to banish any reluctance from the mind is to transfer the merit of one's generosity, or patithana, after the fact by making the intention that any good deeds might also benefit our deceased relatives wherever they have been reborn, in accordance with the Pali verses, Idang yatanang hotu sukita hotu yatayo. May this merit accrue to all my deceased relatives. May all my deceased relatives be happy. So in conclusion, there are 4 things that will ensure that the giving we do will bring the maximum of merit. The first is to prepare a pure gift. The thing which we give must be something that we have come by in an honest way or bought with money that is honestly earned. The second is to ensure pure intention. Pure intention for giving means sparking joy, wholeheartedness, or willing before making the gift. And the same applies not just to the period before the act of giving, but also during and after the act of giving too. The third is to seek out a pure recipient. If the recipient is a layperson, ideally they should be someone who keeps the precepts. If they are a monk, they should be a monk who is strict in their deportment or is actively practicing for spiritual attainments. Lastly, even we, the giver, should be pure. We too need to be established in our precepts, or at least spark joy in the mind, or at least maintain our attention at the center of the body. Since the opportunity to give donations doesn't come around too often, when it does, we should try to make an act of generosity we do pure on all 4 levels. So before we come to time for our meditation today, we have time for a quick story from the scriptures about an exemplary act of generosity. Many aeons ago, but towards the end of the career of cultivating the perfections of our present Buddha, he was born as a hermit called Sumedha. He trained himself in meditation until attaining magical powers, being able to fly through the air. One day, as he was floating through the air, he saw a group of villagers making urgent repairs to our road. He asked why they were in such a rush to repair the road, and they replied that the Buddha Dipankara had already arisen in the world, so they were repairing the road so that the Buddha could pass through in safety. Sumedha the hermit asked the villagers permission to rebuild part of the road himself, and the people of the town were glad of his help. They thought he would use his hermit's powers to magic the road to completion, so they gave him a large piece of road that ran over a piece of subsided ground with a deep hole in it. Sumedha, however, wanted to cultivate generosity the hard way in order to fulfill his perfections, so instead of using magical powers, he started to mend the road by the sweat of his brow. Consequently, he had not finished leveling his piece of road when the Buddha and his disciples reached the place. Sumedha thought, "The road I built is not finished. Never mind, only 2 meters remain, so I'll lie down in the hole in the road myself to form a human bridge." When the Buddha arrived, he bowed at the feet of the Buddha and invited the Buddha and all of his disciples to be a field of merit and walk over him as he lay in the unfinished piece of road. The Buddha and all his disciples walked over his body, and instead of feeling aches and pains, Sumedha was filled with joy to have been of service to the Buddha. And that happened to be the lifetime in which Dipankara Buddha gave Sumedha the prophecy of his own Buddhahood, that he would need to go on to attain full enlightenment for Asankaya and 100,000 aeons later. It was also the lifetime that the Bodhisattva recognized generosity as the foundation of all other perfections. So now that we know a little bit more about the how and why of generosity, let's take a few moments to cultivate our spiritual path with diligence by settling ourselves for 30 minutes of meditation, which today is a recent live recording of meditation on gratitude. If at this time you would like to find a comfortable sitting position for yourself as you listen to my guidance. So we start by placing our attention on the most relaxed part of our body. And if you haven't done so already, then close your eyes very gently. And as you listen, you might become more aware of any feelings of gratitude which you have. You can become aware of the feelings in your body as you relax and prepare to go deeper in meditation. Even on the level of our body, there is much for us to feel grateful about. So relax in your body more and more with every breath. And every breath that you take in can be something which you are grateful for. Every beat of your heart is also something to feel grateful for. And if you feel grateful for your breath and for the beating heart and for all the metabolism that powers your body, the warmth and the liquids and the food, and you can notice the parts of your body that feel relaxed and connect that relaxation with the feeling of gratitude. And as you make that connection with the part of your body that feels the most relaxed, you can also allow that relaxed and calm feeling to spread throughout your body. And you can allow the feelings of gratitude to mingle with the feeling of relaxation. And now as you connect with that tide of relaxation, as soon as you feel ready and at a pace that you feel comfortable with, you can allow yourself to drift deeper and deeper into a relaxed state of body and mind, where gratitude is a feeling, it's an embodied emotion, a specific tingling and pulsing vibration that can move through you, conjured up whenever you notice things for which you feel truly grateful. And just as there are many things for which you can feel potentially happy and grateful in your life, you can elicit a wonderful feeling of gratitude that will flow through your body more and more each time you connect with that gratitude. And as you allow yourself to create a bigger and warmer, a more wonderful feeling of gratitude in your body, you can allow yourself to drift gradually deeper into this relaxation. Gratitude can be a response to things that you see and hear, things that you think of and imagine in your mind. And the more that you allow yourself to connect with the feeling of gratitude as you go about your day, the more that you experience the world through the feelings of gratitude. And to abide in that state of gratitude, being grateful and thankful for that which is around you, it's a very positive way to live your life and experience the world around you. So as you go into this meditation, just relax and allow your awareness to float deeper into a comfortable state. As for so many things to do with habits and values, they are rooted in our qualities of mind. Without engaging the mind on a deeper level, then every aspect of gratitude or forgiveness that we manifest will be nothing more than lip service or going through the motions. So together with every sort of cultivation in our life, we try to engage with our mind on a deeper level to make sure the quality of gratitude is something meaningful right to our core. So as a special opportunity to cultivate gratitude, forgiveness, and all the things that make for harmony, especially in the family life, we conjure up a sense of positivity in the mind, a sense of gratitude for all the things for which we see the value in our lives. That emotion will arise inside us as a tingling feeling of positivity, a warm fuzzy feeling inside us, which we can allow to grow and spread inside us until it fills the whole of our body and mind, until the entirety of the emotion within ourselves is that of gratitude. And connecting with this emotion allows us to go yet more deeply into meditation. And you may drift so deep into this meditation that the ideas and the thoughts about feeling grateful and living life with more gratitude can root themselves deeply inside your subconscious and manifest themselves as thoughts, words and deeds in your life and the things that you experience. And when you experience gratitude as a feeling inside, that reverberates through your entire being. It makes life seem somehow more precious. And the more that you live your life through those feelings of gratitude, through the mindset of gratitude, the more grateful you feel, the more you become aware of the positive influences in your world. Such feelings of gratitude will attract more and more wonderful things into your future. And the more that you take a moment right now to acknowledge that as you go deeper and deeper into this meditation, you can connect with that gratitude more. Just hearing the words grateful and gratitude will help you to start noticing your gratitude towards other people and express that gratitude, and other people will feel grateful towards you as well. Because gratitude is a subtle vibration that resides in the mind. And like all things in the universe, it's a vibrating mass of energy. The very building blocks of all things, animate and inanimate, is energy, whether it be cells, people, knowledge, thoughts, places or experiences, or everything in your universe. Just as the word realize literally means to make real, by realizing gratitude, you essentially make real the good things that you appreciate because of the energy of your thoughts, which manifest and change things for the better. And the thought energy, that is the thought energy of gratitude, is made from the same energy as you and everything around you. So by feeling grateful, you are communicating and transforming all the things around you with that positive energy. So having relaxed ourselves both in body and in mind, from here we turn our mind to achieve some sort of focus inside ourselves. To this end, we might imagine that within the body is just an empty space or a hollow cavity, or as if our whole body has been transformed into a sort of transparent bubble with nothing on the inside. And now would be the time to find a focus for our attention by conjuring up in our mind something bright and clear, like a shining sun, a full moon, a star, a crystal ball, or even a sparkling diamond. Or indeed the feeling of an object such as those I've already mentioned, as if that object is present inside our body, even though we know it's there only by how it feels. And we allow that picture or feeling to make its way gently downwards within our body until it comes to a point at the deepest part of our breath, the solar plexus or the center of our diaphragm, using that inner object as an anchor for the mind, to keep our mind engaged with our sense of positivity at the place where it really counts, at the very center of ourselves. If our mind wanders away to anything else around us, it's just a case of bringing it back each time. If the inner object disappears, we can conjure up a new one. If the object changes, we can just follow it in its new form. And little by little it will take our mind deeper. The quality of the awareness will change to become more subtle, more nuanced, more refined, until there's a feeling as if our whole body seems to become light in weight, disappearing into the atmosphere around us and allowing the mind to go deeper still. If there are thoughts in the mind, we do our best to ignore them, because meditation is a place of wordlessness. It's a place that gives value to the space between the thoughts, rather than the thoughts themselves. So we look for the space between the thoughts, and the goal of stopping the mind, or the standstill, which you may be familiar with from previous meditations, means a state in meditation where mental activity has died down to a point that there are no further thoughts in the mind anymore. Just a sense of clear awareness, a sense of direct perception on the inside. And we'll find that many of the things we have experienced since the day we were born are things that we have just taken for granted. When we were younger, there were people to cook for us, clean and wash up after us, look after us, teach and guide us. As we grew up, hopefully we will have acknowledged all this help and become more grateful. Some people say that you don't appreciate what you've got until it's gone. And gratitude is about appreciating things while we still have them. It's easy to take things for granted when we have never experienced life without them. So we take a moment to notice some of the feelings in our life about things for which we are grateful. Perhaps things we've been taking for granted but which we now recognize, allowing us finally to become more grateful. As we relax comfortably, we can start to see the world differently, in a way that has more gratitude. The danger of a world that lacks gratitude is that no one will want to help another person a second time. Ingratitude will turn society into a more selfish place. Because the nature of ingratitude is like being in the middle of the ocean, surrounded by water but unable to drink any of it. And in the same way, if we are ungrateful, even if we are surrounded by helpful people, things and opportunities, but because we only know how to find fault with these things, we are unable to derive any benefit from the help that's offered to us. But through gratitude, it seems that even our brain is transformed. We find ourselves more and more unshackled from toxic emotions if we are more grateful. And even if we don't share that gratitude with others, it still brings benefits on the level of the brain. It's as if our unconscious mind gets messages that join together in new ways, so that we can think differently about the things that we achieve. Realizing more and more how much of what we achieve in our life is due to the help of other things and other people in our lives. And when you're better able to feel grateful for these things, and it is something that we can do any time, at any place, whether we're driving, walking, talking, at work or at play, we can feel grateful more and more in all sorts of situations. We can allow ourselves to feel grateful for things and for people with whom we spend our time, feeling that gratitude more and more. In effect, it is an internal dialogue, an image and a feeling within us. And eliciting those feelings and images, or this internal dialogue, helps us feel more grateful, helps us to value and appreciate the things that we have. It's almost as if we are pre-programming our subconscious to remind us to feel grateful at every opportunity. So meditation on gratitude supercharges our subconscious, literally rewiring our mind for a more grateful and abundant mindset. And this gratitude will contribute to improved health and wealth and abundance in our lives. So reflecting on this, we engage deeper and deeper with a sense of gratitude at the center of our body for a few more moments in silence until we come to the appropriate time. And picking up now on the energy we've gained by the outpouring of gratitude, we re-engage with gratitude at the center of our body. And at this time we can double down on that sense of gratitude by projecting a sense of gratitude towards ourselves first of all. We take a moment to feel grateful just for being who we are, appreciating ourselves as we are, and taking a look at ourselves as if in a mirror, to think how grateful we are that we are who we are. We can remind ourselves to have an attitude of gratitude, and rather than advocating self-aggrandizement, we simply connect with a moderate amount of self-esteem. Because if we don't appreciate ourselves, then it will be hard for others to appreciate us, or for us to appreciate others. You can remember to feel grateful towards yourself throughout the day, from this moment forward. And from there we can allow ourselves to feel more and more grateful. Deep down inside our subconscious, recognizing that feeling of gratitude, allowing us to feel grateful for more things, perhaps things that have happened in our lives, whether it be birthdays or festive times of the year, or specific events that you have coming up. You might feel grateful for things like nutritious meals, holidays, or even the small and simple things that you can feel grateful for. You can feel grateful for the things that perhaps you normally take for granted, even the things that we may feel that we have actually paid for. But simply having them available to purchase, whether it be food, shelter, clothing, or good health, these little things that we often take for granted, or the things like the time you spend with other people, or the people that spend that time with you. More and more in the future you can feel grateful when you're experiencing these things, either working or socially. And the more you experience gratitude in those places and times in your life, the more wonderful and vibrant and grateful your life will become. And you can feel grateful for those things, and you can allow your feelings of gratitude to spread into other areas of your life, allowing you to express those feelings of gratitude more and more as you go through your day. And as you feel gratitude for those things, you might start to appreciate with gratitude the role other people have had in bringing about those things for which you feel grateful. And you express your real and true gratitude to other people for the things that they do, because you spread that gratitude to others. Simply by saying thank you to somebody is expressing your gratitude. Saying thank you can bring a smile to others' faces. And it even lights up different areas of our brain, making us feel happier. The long-term benefits of practicing conscious gratitude on your health, happiness and general well-being have been proven again and again. And it might be a good opportunity to be grateful on a spiritual level to founders, teachings, meditation teachers in the present, the heritage, the living tradition and the culture that perpetuates our tradition, from which we derive so much solace and benefit in the practice of our meditation in the present day. We might also consider feelings of gratitude for elders and betters in our lives, acknowledging the ways they have shaped our lives for the better. So we cultivate our attention in this way, lightly and gently, engaging more deeply with a sense of gratitude, perhaps calling to mind the things for which we are grateful. And often gratitude is connected with an emotion of forgiveness. And in this connection we can perhaps reflect on the issues that we might want to let go of from our past, with the proviso that we can forgive without any real need to forget, allowing us to learn from history without being too naive about it. And when we extend good wishes in this way to ourselves initially, and then ever wider outwards into the society around us, to fellow human beings, all of whom love their life, appreciate goodness in life, irrespective of race, creed, nationality or religion, and to all living beings, not just human beings, but all living beings who also value their lives in the same way. Because at this moment, although we may be fortunate in being able to enjoy peace of mind and cultivate a sense of peace, but there are parts of the world where many people are not enjoying such peace. Those who are caught up with disruption and fear. So at this time we might be worth conjuring up a sense of gratitude for the peace that we enjoy, while remembering that those elsewhere in the world aren't so fortunate as us. So we extend a sense of humanity in ever-widening circles outwards into the world around us for a few more moments in silence until we come to the appropriate time. Sabba Buddhanupavena, Sabba Dhammanupavena, Sabba Sankhanupavena, Sattha Soti Bhavantu Te. So if you'd like to come to the end of your meditation for today, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position before gradually finishing your practice. So to return gently to today's subject of generosity, let's think for a moment about who might be on the receiving end of our generosity. We need to remain aware that generosity in Buddhism has a very broad definition. An act of generosity might be intended to help those who are poor and needy, who have a status that is worse than ours. Equally, we might practice generosity out of friendship to those of a similar status to ourselves. Lastly, we might give to those of a higher status to ourselves, but the reason for the gift would not be out of that person's need for what we're giving them, but as a way of expressing our respect for them. The nebulous term status, which I have been talking about for the recipient, is often connected with the idea of purity, especially in terms of precepts, attainments, or spiritual vocation. The logic of generosity is that the purer the recipient, the greater the meritorious outcomes yielded to the giver, even when the value of the gift is equal. Furthermore, as we shall see, a gift given to the whole community of monks yields even greater meritorious outcomes to the giver than a gift to any individual recipient, whatever their level of purity. In this connection, the Buddha taught in the Dakhinavivanga Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya that the amount of merit yielded to the giver by a gift to an individual, known in Buddhism as Patibukkalikatthana, is in proportion to the purity of the recipient. Even if the food is given to a humble animal, it will bring to the giver long life, ayu, good complexion, vanna, happiness, sukha, strength, phala, and intelligence, patipanna, for no less than 100 lifetimes. Even if the gift is given to a person who does not keep the precepts, the gift will bring the same fruits for 1,000 lifetimes. If the gift is given to a person who does keep the precepts, the gift will bring the same fruits for 100,000 lifetimes. And if the gift is given to a hermit or ascetic outside the Buddhist monastic community who has attained some degree of mental powers, the gift will bring the same fruits for 1,000,000,000,000 lifetimes. And this is not to speak of a gift given to someone who is practicing for or who has already attained sainthood at the level of stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, arahant, Vajrayana Buddha, or a fully enlightened Buddha, for whom the merit yielded is even more. These are the extent of the merits arising from offering a gift of food to an individual recipient. But incredible as these meritorious outcomes may seem, they are still small compared with the fruits of a gift given as Sangatana, which means for the sake of the whole monastic community. The challenge of giving to the community is that most people lack the motivation to help strangers or to give merely out of principle. They would much prefer to go to a particular temple and single out a particular monk for their attention. They need a personal connection between themselves and a monk before they will reach out with any support. They may be narrow-minded and look down on monks of low rank. Of course, they still receive merit from their good deed, but since they favor a particular monk, the fruits of their merit are slightly reduced from what it could have been, as it does not encourage unity in the community of monks. Giving to the community signals broad-mindedness in the giver that magnifies and multiplies the outcomes of the merit beyond what any individual gift could achieve. The Buddha taught that anyone who is sufficiently broad-minded to support the Sangha in this way will receive not only many lifetimes of merit, but merit that is incalculable. The Buddha specified the duty of a Buddhist householder towards members of the monastic community in the 6 directions of the Sigalovada Sutta, and I draw your attention particularly to number 4 and 5 on the slide, as keeping an open house to the monastic community and supplying the monastic community with their basic material needs. In other words, it's the duty of every Buddhist householder to be generous in their support of the Sangha. The Buddha specified that monks earn their livelihood by alms and not by other means, in order that they will be able to devote their time to their real duties of study and meditation, in order to be able to be pure in body, speech and mind, and to be a field of merit for the householders, while at the same time fulfilling their duty as teachers to those householders. Of course, the government could allocate a budget out of taxes to support monks in the same way the state finances the church in many Western countries. But because Buddhism has, like the Protestant Church, always emphasized the importance of separation between church and state, the price of this independence is that Buddhism must rely on the symbiotic relationship between monk and laity at the grassroots level, which cannot be manipulated by any politician. By supporting the monastic community, the idea is that the householders maintain the intactness of the triple gem for perpetuity. Unfortunately, this support relies on the good reputation of the monks, and it's extremely damaging to the monastic community whenever members of the monastic community cause scandals. The repercussions of 1 or 2 bad eggs can adversely affect the whole monastic community worldwide, since householders withdraw their support for the monastic community out of uncertainty as to which monks are practicing in earnest. It takes authentically practicing monks to salvage the tarnished image of the monastic community and to stay the downward spiral that would otherwise lead people to abandoning Buddhist practice. Unless we are a professional philanthropist with a private income, the practice of generosity may well conflict with other financial pressures in our lives. And in this respect, I will give you a quick flashback to the 7 Myths lecture where I described the 4 changes of a millionaire's heart, the factors which underpin financial security upon which you can build the habit of generosity. At that time, we counted 4 underpinning factors: diligent and honest acquisition, taking good care of what you have, associating only with good friends, and spending or donating only within your means. Put another way, one needs to be generous in a way that won't cause regret at a later stage. it may require a degree of budget planning. Real-life philanthropists plan how much they're going to set aside for charitable good works, and we of modest means should certainly be no less careful. In some religions, they even set a target for you. For example, in Islam, zakat is set at 2.5% of your income. From the point of view of Buddhism, they try to work out the answer in terms of pie charts. And this pie chart has 5 segments to it, which you shouldn't assume to mean 20%. But supposing your income is the whole amount in the diagram, then what you should actually use on a day-to-day basis should be just one of the 5 segments. And if you are still working, and this advice is from a time when there was no welfare state, then obviously you've got your working capital, which is to do with the turnover in your business. On top of this, you need to put something aside in case of emergencies, just in case your medical insurance doesn't cover everything. For the 3rd segment, if you want to keep your friends, then you need to put aside something for maintaining friendship, even things like being hospitable to friends or putting up guests. They go into more detail on business finances, which can be divided into your immediate needs and business emergencies, so that's not the medical ones, and reinvestment. They actually put figures on that. 50% is recommended to be reinvested. For the last segment, there are financial tributes of various sorts, and this is of particular interest to us in this blessing because it is where generosity comes in. Tributes towards your extended family are something which you'll hear more about in Blessing 17. And there are tributes needed for us to provide hospitality. There are tributes for the deceased, so performing funeral or memorial rites for the benefit of friends and relatives who have passed away. And of course, there are tributes in the form of taxes. I think in most advanced Western economies, they would take a larger chunk from your pie than the notional 20% shown here. And I think you may find that it's not optional either, because they take it from you even before you get it. There's also a tribute towards something known as customary religion, which means things which people in your locality give importance to, like, for example, having a stock of candies available for kids who may come trick-or-treating on Halloween night. Finally, we come to the segment that advocates supporting the monastic community and basically the meditation infrastructure, which would be the generous aspect of our budgeting. So it's said that if you value generosity, then you should be asking yourself whether you've covered at least these 5 sectors yet or not. Or is the factor of working capital almost completely taking over your whole budget? As I said earlier, generosity is always an optional part of life, but it's a sensible option if you hope to cultivate the generous side of yourself. Generally, generosity refers to giving away what is excess to our needs, and the habit trains us to be able to distinguish between need and want, and eventually to overcome the tendency to want more and more without end. Let's say you have a big plate of food and you know that half will be enough for you. To give the other half to a hungry friend is considered to be generosity or dana. However, in some places in the scriptures, such as the 4 virtues of the householder or karawasa Dhamma, the Buddha advocated overlooking our hunger if it's necessary to feed the starving. Such giving is a more developed form of generosity known as self-sacrifice or chakha. In pursuit of the perfection of generosity, the Buddha-to-be cultivated self-sacrifice to the point he was willing to sacrifice not only his material possessions, but also parts of his body such as his blood or his eyes, otherwise known as upatana paramita, and to lay down his life or paramata dana paramita for the sake of spiritual cultivation. A final point about generosity concerns the reason why some people who perform an act of generosity seem to receive the fruit of their deed immediately, whereas others are kept waiting for a long time. For example, someone is generous and immediately comes into a fortune or is crowned king or attains enlightenment. In this connection, there is an additional factor in the performance of generosity which influences the swiftness with which the merit will give its fruit, that is mentioned in the Sappurusatthana Sutta of the Anguttara Nikaya, otherwise known as the style of giving by a noble one. Here it's taught that giving at the appropriate time will bring the giver wealth, and the wishes of the giver will come to fruition without delay. Generally, the merit arising from a generous deed, especially in terms of the reduction of stinginess in the mind, will be in proportion to the 4 pures I mentioned before. Apart from these factors, the outcome of material generosity is affected by the type of gift offered. Elaborating on the Samyutta Nikaya's Kindada Sutta, offering food such as a meal for monks will bring the specific meritorious outcome of long life, bright complexion, good health, strength, and quick-wittedness. Offering cloth or clothing such as robes for monks will bring the specific meritorious outcome of good complexion. Offering transport such as vehicles, shoes, a lift, or a fare on public transport will bring the meritorious outcome of happiness. Offering lights such as candles, lanterns, or fuel will bring the meritorious outcome of outstanding eyesight. Offering shelter such as a place for the night will bring the meritorious outcome of everything being provided for you. Offering permanent properties such as buildings, trees, for example, will bring the meritorious outcome of long life, strength, and security of personal property. Time-limited offerings such as hospitality for guests, or giving to someone who's about to travel, or the first fruits of harvest, will bring the meritorious outcome of wishes coming true in a timely fashion. Offering forgiveness, such as releasing condemned animals or forgiving others, will bring the meritorious outcome of long life. Offering knowledge, such as a lecture or needed advice, will bring the meritorious outcomes of intelligence or swift attainment of wisdom. Therefore, the idea of cultivating generosity might be to give the sort of gifts that you've not given before, to make sure you are covered in terms of the expected future outcomes. For today, I'd like to finish off with a story which gives the example of generosity by a couple who were extremely poor, but who also made the mistake of hesitating because of this. There was once a couple who were so poor that they had only a loincloth each, and had to share a single shawl between them. If the husband went out of the house wearing the shawl, then the wife had to stay at home and hide in the house. If the wife went out of the house, then the husband had to stay at home. They couldn't go anywhere together because they had only that single shawl between them. One day, the husband went out alone to hear an all-night teaching by the Buddha. He was filled with faith and decided to offer the shawl to the Buddha. He took off the shawl, then thought of what his wife might say and changed his mind. He listened to the sermon further until midnight, and again his heart was filled with a determination to offer the shawl. But then he thought of his wife, and he changed his mind again. In the end, he had to listen to the sermon almost until dawn, and this time he mustered the courage to make the most important gift of his life. He went ahead and offered the shawl to the Buddha without any further hesitation, while claiming the words, "Cittame, cittame," which means, "I have conquered it. I have conquered it." Also in the audience was King Pasenati, who was sitting nearby. And generally, if anyone shouts anything about conquest near a king, they will normally have their head chopped off. But in this case, the king was curious to know what such a poor man had conquered. The Brahmin replied that he had conquered his stinginess, and the king thought such a person is rare, and therefore set the man up in life with a standard of living fit for a millionaire. The Brahmin took everything he'd been given by the king and again offered it to the Buddha, keeping only one shawl for himself and one for his wife. The king therefore gave the man even more possessions. In the morning, once the man had returned home with his newfound wealth, the Buddha revealed to the rest of the monastic community that if the man had managed to conquer his stinginess at the beginning of the sermon, he would have been made 4 times as rich. If he had conquered his stinginess at midnight, he would have been twice as rich. However, his hesitation in performing his generous act until dawn had blunted the power of his meritorious intention. The Buddha concluded that if anyone ever has the faith to do a good deed, then they should do that good deed without hesitation, before the intention is overtaken by stinginess. In conclusion for today, the practicality of being generous means giving things that you have earned in an honest way. It means giving something that you know will be appreciated. Where appropriate, you should choose gifts that won't be used in an unintended way, so that the giving will not cause you regret later. To maximize the merit arising from generosity before giving, work on the quality of your own mind. Don't look down upon the recipients as charity cases, and avoid looking down on those who receive your gift. Finally, don't forget that a worthy recipient for your generosity might equally well be a friend in need, or those for whom you want to express your respect. So, this session I have introduced to you blessing number 15 on generosity. For my next live session with you, which will, fingers crossed, be a week on Sunday morning, I'll move on to blessing 16, all about Dhamma practice, which explains how things like lack of prejudice can contribute to becoming a pillar of society. For good measure, I'd like to remind viewers that you can email your questions about meditation or what you've heard in the lecture to the email address that you can see spelled out on the slide, and I'll do my best to answer these on my next session. In the meantime, try to stay healthy, avoid recklessness or complacency in the face of the virus, maintain a positive mood, speak only positive words, forgive others, extend good wishes to others, and meditate daily. Hopefully, as a result of today's session, you will be curious to see how generosity can add value and meaning to your life. So for today, this is me, Phra Nicholas, signing off for now. So long, folks, and stay safe.